I just printed off a letter I'm writing to the Taliban commandos when I meet them in 2 months. You're going to be banned from the country. You'll never come to Afghanistan.
Oh,
if I can't say California,
I was going to go there in the first place. You think that I was going to go there in the first place? Oh no, I can't go to Afghanistan now, guys. As a woman, as a proud Muslim woman. Yeah, I really want to go to Afghanistan. That's a place I want to go, where I have to fully cover my face.
Great. It's better than California. I'd rather be in Afghanistan than California,
inshallah. It's great for you as a man who doesn't have to cover himself.
Okay. Immigration should be based on being of a certain level of civilized. But Miles, you have a different picture, so go on.
Yeah, I still think your picture is kind of based, to be fair, better than most with what people say. And I've got to respect it. I didn't mention that earlier, but good stuff still. I feel like we shouldn't be talking more about immigration. I would just stop it mostly entirely. Go down 90%, let's say. And I would start deporting people who actually don't agree with the country's values, that are, acting like, a barrier to unity in the country. The good old American type of people. I feel like nowadays there's people that just want to break apart the nation that do pose a threat to the actual sovereignty of, say, the US and the UK and so on. And, if they came here in the last 20 years or something, I don't see why they should stick around, truthfully. I mean, some people come here, like Stardust said, and they get universal health care, and my taxes go towards it. And then they moan and cry about the nation not being Muslim, let's say, or not being XYZ, when it's clearly not XYZ type of nation. It's our nation, and you have to adapt to it. We don't adapt to you, because you're coming here as a privilege to enjoy what we have, because we're letting you in so kindly. So I think these people shouldn't stick around.
I think that from everything that I've read, immigration seems to benefit us economically. It seems to benefit us in multiple ways. And I think as long as the people who come here are willing to be part of the country and be part of America, then I'm fine with it. But I can't really speak to, I guess, the UK and the unique problems that they face there. Yeah.
Can you please define, when you say being a part of, how do you define that?
Assimilating and being a working member of society, contributing to the economy, things like that.
At what levels would you say contributing to the economy? So would you have any kind of limit when it comes to the kind of jobs that can already be done by multitudes of people who are already here?
So generally, we have immigration to kind of keep up with like the labor gaps that we have, right? And generally, like people are not keeping up with having children, right? Things like that. So immigration is good for us in that sense, that we need to keep up the amount of the population that is younger, that is working, so that they can also take care of the older population. And so I think as long as somebody is working a job, I think that they're contributing to the society. I don't think it really matters if they are a skilled person or not, right? Because the same argument that you make for somebody who's unskilled coming in, you can make for somebody who is skilled coming in. So you could just say like, oh, well, there are plenty of people who are unskilled who need that job. There are plenty of people who are skilled who also need those jobs, right? But the fact is that there are still labor gaps. And so we need to be able to fill those gaps.
Very much disagree. I think that's very naive. I think that's what most libertarians feel like when they turn 18, They just everyone comes together. The GDP matters, not everyone's quality of life, happiness, community, group identity. No, it's all about the GDP, bro. No. How about we just have more children? How about we repeal the birth pill? Because it's damaging for society on every single metric, apart from people that just want to sleep around because, they're whores. Same with men too. I disagree with both men and women sleeping around. They should just not do that. Have some self-control. Have loads of children. Support those children. Feel happy in a society that is, majority them. Because if you go into certain communities and you can't even recognize your own country, the immigration doesn't matter. I don't care what the numbers say on the screen. I would rather live in a slightly poorer nation that has everyone that's very similar in groups, ideals, understandings, and everything, rather than one that worries about GDP in the short term. Why do you think America is so fractured? Because too many ideas, too many conflicting beliefs are coming into one system, and now everyone feels alienated, regresses into their own community, becomes radicalized because they're being threatened in every single way, like every single group. And the whole mixing pot idea of America was invented by a Jewish man in 1911 during a newspaper publication, where the general sentiment was never actually like that. That newspaper publication was ripped apart and laughed at. America was never a melting pot to some degree. It was laughed at, and no one felt the same sentiment. And only now that's being pushed for mass immigration, where mass immigration does not help most of the time in the long run. It collapses nations, groups' identities. Most people feel depressed and sad, and that's why people feel terrible now. That's why suicide's extremely high.
Miles, your main problem with this is that you think that immigrants don't assimilate, basically, and that because they don't assimilate, it's like bad for
They
the.
don't.
Okay, so there is a ton of research.
Oh, it's not my thing.
Okay, there's a ton of research that shows that immigrants are assimilating as well or better than previous immigrant groups, even Mexicans, within America at least. The National Academy of Science in September 2015, they titled the book, they published a book that says assimilation is never perfect and always takes time, but it's going very well. July 2015, there was a book that analyzed immigrants and second-generation integration on 27 measurable indicators across the OECD and EU countries. And the report finds more problems with immigrant assimilation in Europe, especially for those from outside of the EU, but the findings for the United States are quite positive. So that seems like it's more of like a failing of the EU that people aren't assimilating. Maybe the EU needs to do something there. And then through intermarriage in time, more educated descendants of Hispanic immigrants don't really identify as Hispanic. They end up identifying as white over time. So yeah, people do assimilate really well in America. Just the EU is not as good at it as us.
Well, I wouldn't say that's true. I mean, you're looking at studies that don't actually. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Because I can pull up data that exactly says the otherwise. No, I can Google search things, but at the same time, you say, "Oh, I'm going to quantify this," like you're some sort of scientist. But like with my degree in physics, I've looked at quite a lot of data analysis myself, and one basic thing I found out is social sciences such as this have a huge degree in accuracy, and it's very, very. It's almost impossible to actually quantify it properly because it believes on metrics that are derived from things that are basically just assumed, which you can't do. That's why I believe 80% of social studies have non-replicable, have pieces of data that are not replicable. I can't say the word now. I need more water. But you can't replicate the data. At the same time, you can throw study after study, but most people are becoming more and more anti-immigration because the reason they don't want it. At the same time, they don't want more people coming to the country. And, people have the same complaints over and over again, where they don't want people that disagree with their ideals, disagree with their group identity, and go against their social interests. That's why most people are against immigration, against Mexicans, and so on in mass numbers, legally or illegally, and so on. And you agreed with me too. You also said, integration isn't perfect, but it's going well. Well, going well isn't good enough. I want 100% integration, because if you just take a small bit of differing bits when it comes to integration, if the ideals change just bit by bit, after 20, 30, 50 years, you have a whole different country of ideals that aren't on the line that they should be, where the country, when it remains the same people, it's just going to keep changing the country over and over again. They don't integrate properly. First generation immigrants never integrate properly, and it becomes a huge issue.
No, it's not first generation; it's second and third.
Every other country.
But okay, so just because the UK and the EU are bad at helping people integrate into society, into their society, doesn't mean that America should be following what they're doing. America's clearly better at it. I'm sorry that you guys suck at it, but America, by all studies, shows that we're very good at helping people assimilate into our society. And this idea that our society is changing because of immigrants is just not true. It's just not true. People
Well, it kind of
assimilate.
is.
People come over from these immigrants come in, and oftentimes they share a lot of the same ideals because a lot of them are deeply devoutly Catholic or deeply devoutly Christian. A lot
and
of them
WWF fans.
They have a lot of similarities with us.
Well, they have some similarities, but it doesn't mean they're the same. They may be Catholic, but they
Look,
believe in
you
certain
can say-
ideals. The same country, America is not the same country it was in the 60s. You'd have the same people, same
it's
ideals,
better
same
now.
economy, same
We are the
outlook,
best
beliefs.
country.
No, it's gone
It
worse.
is better
No, it's gone worse.
we're better than we were in the 60s.
You think
Are
that
you
because
kidding
people
me?
are more
By
depressed,
every
people are more
measure.
sad, more mass shootings,
No,
more
they're not.
suicides,
Women
more
were
people
fucking
unhappy.
killing
People are having less
themselves at
sex.
home in the 60s. Women were
Yeah.
on barbiturates.
Less children,
Women were
less
seeing
everything. You have
psychiatrists
to
because they were so
artificially
depressed at
supply
home.
your own country with immigrants that
I'm
most
so
people don't want.
sorry. I'm
Just keep
so
your
sorry that the
population up
UK
because
sucks
people will
at
have
integrating
sex.
people, that you guys put people in ghettos, but America's just better at it. I'm sorry. So
All right, I got
to Stardust. I think the
Because
UK and Europe in general.
I got to
obviously
throw
is
something in here, okay? And I don't know if this is the fault of the school system, or the fault of culture. I completely personally reject any talk about race or DNA or something like that, because I think that people are very flexible. Look at the North Koreans and South Koreans. People can change. It just depends on factors in time and so on and so forth. But if we're talking about
change into a werewolf,
exactly, or Goku changes into the Ozaru monkey. But anyway, if we're talking about another Dragon Ball reference, if we're talking about California, let's say, from what I understand, Stardust, you could correct me if I'm wrong. It's a very diverse place as far as there being a lot of people from Central America and South America who are and from Mexico, obviously, who are living in California. California has culturally, you could say, changed. Its education system has a lot of money that is pumped into it, but the results are not really there, from what I understand. Again, I could be wrong.
California funds more through taxes than all of the other states.
Yes, exactly.
So we fund. So I'm not in California, but California, as far as I can tell, they can do whatever they want because they fund more to the federal government than any other state. And there are tons of states that are being floated by California. So California can do whatever the hell they want. As far as it goes for me, California seems to be doing just fine, especially since they are floating so many different states in the United States. Especially even with their immigrant population, they are doing so great economically. They haven't changed their values. There's still American values. Sure, there are more Latin Americans there. There are more Spanish speakers there. That doesn't mean that their values have changed at all. They come to America and everybody's American and everybody believes in American values.
But let's stay focused here. Let's stay focused specifically on what are the education results. So tests are given, the kids do the tests come back. What are the education results right now of California? That I think is the key, because look, a state can subsist on like the high-end technological industries there, but still, if we're talking about like the most vulnerable class, like the middle class, like people who need there to be a higher standard to reach towards, and I believe everybody is capable of reaching towards that standard. If that is not being done right now, then I think there may be a certain question of what are the kind of cultures.
There are other states to worry about. There are other states to worry about. West Virginia is like top on being least educated. Like least educated states are West Virginia, Mississippi, and Louisiana. So I'm not too worried about California.
But that's...
California.
No,
California's
I
doing
would bomb
pretty good.
California. California's just sinking into the
Yeah,
ocean.
because you're jealous.
Hellhole.
Because you're jealous that California is so fucking based and that UK can't keep up with one state in America. So sorry.
California's based.
I feel like West Virginia is way
You-
more
all of the
based than
movies you watch
California.
are from
no.
California.
West Virginia
Cry
will
more,
tell
cry more,
California
cope more.
exactly.
There's a
even
problem
in
that
California.
there's a problem that's going on here.
I'm in
So
DC.
there's a problem that's going on here. So I understand you're talking about West Virginia sucking in terms of education. I don't want to go into whataboutism mode right now. I want to just stick right now to the education levels in California and look at
California has some of the highest like outcomes as far as education goes.
Okay, so specifically if we're talking about
high
like
school graduation rate is 83%. And a huge, like a third of their population gets a bachelor's degree or higher. So I think they're doing really well.
Interesting.
Well,
then I have to go.
College matters.
then I have to go back and look at the statistics for later, because that is very different from what I saw earlier on. So again, no, this is a very important question, because I could be very...
Some of the dumbest jabronis I know are college-educated people. They don't
well,
know
that's
shit.
that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole
different.
That's a whole
yes.
different thing.
College educated
Okay,
people
let me see here.
They're
California.
retarded. They don't deserve to go to college education.
I
Okay.
don't know, dude.
All right,
I
would not
going to a war into a war.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
University
Here we go. This is an important one. So it says over here, worldpopulationreview.com. California's 23.1% of adults lacking basic prose literacy skills make California have the lowest literacy rate of 76.9%. So the school system may have something to do with that. And I think that culture also has something to do with it, as far as when you have people, let's say the Jews, for example, you have Jewish people who came from the Pale of Settlement, didn't speak a lick of English, yet they understood that it was very important, regardless of whether they were being discriminated against, to work very, very hard, work very, very smart. And if the hospital didn't want to admit Jewish doctors, you know what they did? They started their own hospital. So this is something that I think every person is capable of, as far as, if we're talking about people from Mexico or wherever, but I don't see that being the focus. Instead, I see a lot of virtue signaling from people in California saying, oh, we love our immigrants so much, yet I don't really see that much of a focus on improving something like this literacy rate.
So they're probably working on it. I think probably a lot of it that has to do with it is if you have a lot of immigrants coming in, probably they're not coming in like super educated, right? At least if they're coming from across the border, right? So yeah, they have to make improvements in that case, certainly. But they still by far, despite that education issue, they still by far are doing the best economically.
All right, one more thing. One more thing. Results from the 2019 National Assessment of Educational Progress show that only 32% of fourth graders are reading proficiently. So these results put California below the national average and behind 25 other states. So again, you cannot attribute this to just the first-generation migrants who fled from wherever to come here. This is students who are part of the California school system. To me, this shows a complete lack of focus on having this very high standard that everybody should abide by. In New York, by the way, where I'm from, what that stupid fuck de Blasio decided to do, and I don't think it was passed, but what he wanted to do was he wanted to lower the literacy standards and lower the hard testing because the kids who were black and Latino were not doing so hot. So he wanted to ruin things for the Asian kids and for the white kids just because they didn't, it wasn't equity. He wanted equity. My approach would be make it even harder and make sure that you're paying special attention to these kids in their communities to get them to that same level, which I believe is 100% possible, yet they don't want to focus on raising the bar. And that's what I think really sucks.
I think that, I think we can agree on raising the bar. But I think that, looking at this one stat, when you've got the entirety of California that is literally keeping other states afloat, I think that's not really indicative of a problem with immigration, right? Maybe because California is one of the most
that's like saying Saudi Aramco is keeping Saudi Arabia afloat when you have a bunch of really, really dumb people there that are rich off of oil. They're not the ones keeping it afloat. It's the oil and it's the industry. So that's a very different thing.
No, I think there are people who are
things about California.
They are paying taxes, and those taxes fund a lot of other states.
The productive people are, but we need to get more people on a higher level.
Okay, sure. Yeah, let's get more people on a higher level.
Are too.
Yeah, let's
how about
the situation in California? What's going on with that? How come those people
Homelessness is highest in the US and California. Most antidepressants used in California. California is also the most unhappy state. Highest cost of living, highest housing prices, which you want to reduce, by the way. But California is so great. Basically, California is the hellhole of America. Biggest. Doesn't mean a thing. If I'm a billionaire, but I'm living a miserable lifestyle because of the ethics and the soullessness of the country, I'd rather be poor, and I've chosen that time and time again. That's why I dropped out of investment banking. You see, I would rather live in, say, Texas, which is happier, and that's why everyone's moving out of California. That's why there's a huge exodus of the California population, and I don't care about GDP most of the time. It doesn't matter about money, and that's the one thing that ruins nations. This is basically the fall of Rome, just slowly happening in time, and that's why most people dislike California. It's a hellhole, and everyone in the US pretty much agrees with me. It's the most hated state in the country, but just because it has a few extra numbers, why don't we just, I don't know, instead of basically paying the most money to the federal government, why don't we just reduce the government? We should go a little bit more libertarian on that.
Okay, so California has some of the best colleges in the United States. They have Stanford, they have Berkeley, they have UCLA, they have UCSD. So a lot of the issues that you're talking about with,
how are their football teams?
If you let me finish. A lot of the issues with the education in California is a budgetary issue. Right, so yeah, maybe they can put more money into the public school system, sure. But as far as California itself having some of the best college institutions in the United States, let alone the world, right? I think that you're just completely off base here. I mean, again, it's the fifth largest economy in the world, surpasses the UK. I'm sorry. You know, the highest rates for lifetime literal homelessness were found in the UK. 7.7% versus the United States. United States was 6.2%.
Exactly. We're too much like California. We're too much like California.
You're not like California at all. You're second. If you were a state in the United States, you would be the second poorest state. You are nowhere near California.
Wait. Star. To be fair to Lord Miles, there is this.
We've got universal healthcare.
Universal healthcare.
How's that? Yeah, you guys really manage it well, don't you?
Handing out your details.
And you think America's going to manage ours?
Yeah, we pretty much made your entire.
We can do it better. We've done assimilation better, and we can do that better too.
I don't know.
Well, Miles' points is that
I might just be stirring shit here, but yeah.
I just print off a letter I'm writing to the Taliban commandos when I meet them in 2 months. You're going to be banned from the country. You'll never come to Afghanistan.
If I can't say California, I was going to go there in the first place. You think that I was going to go there in the first place? Oh no, I can't go to Afghanistan now, guys. As a woman, as a proud Muslim woman. I really want to go to Afghanistan. That's a place I want to go, where I have to fully cover my face.
Great, it's better than California. I would rather be in Afghanistan than California.
As a man who doesn't have to cover himself.
Okay.
You're an infidel to them, just so you know.
I can't wear shorts. I do have to cover myself.
You're an infidel to them, just so you know.
No, Star. Actually, he's not an infidel. He's not an infidel. He would have to pay jizya. So if Lord Miles were to live there, he would have to pay, as a Christian, the jizya tax. So Jews and Christians have to pay. Yeah.
But guess what? It's less tax than California.
Yeah, and California is better. California is better than Afghanistan too.
Excuse my language, but it's terrible.
It's a shit. You know what? Afghanistan, at least in California, I don't have to wear a full fucking cover over my face and over my entire body.
Yeah, you just have people showing half their asses up and then just.
Well, I don't have to do that. I'm not required by law to show half my ass.
California, there's still a lot of masks.
Well, I don't know. It seems like the cultural issues are a lot more. I don't like California, and I'd rather die before acknowledging California. The only thing I like about California
you're just mad because you're jealous. You wish you were California. You wish that
I'm not jealous.
California.
I am not jealous. I will not be jealous of what you claim to be and what California is. You're just jealous because you can't go to Afghanistan because you ran away from religion and became an atheist because you are godless.
I could say anything now.
The UK is jealous.
You don't even know me. I dislike the UK. I dislike the UK. I always have. I'm agreeing with you on the UK. You've got nothing on me.
Okay, all right.
Wait, everybody settle down.
You think you know what you're talking about.
Everybody settle down, Hold on. I'm reining back the stream. All right. Wait, okay. I'm raining back. Hold on. I'm raining back the stream. I have not muted Mass Bastard because he is on his best behavior right now, but I've muted the two of you temporarily. So first, I want to say, if you guys are enjoying this, please subscribe. Second of all, invest in Lev. Hashtag invest in Lev. To Lord Miles' point, he is not a fan of England as it currently is, and so it goes back to my question about California. What are the things that have made England the kind of place that Lord Miles is not like? Can we extend that to what Lord Miles sees is going on in California? Lord Miles, you have the mic, and then I would love for Stardust to reply.
Mass immigration, unchecked economic balances, liberalism when we shouldn't influence in other countries. England's become too passive. I can go on a huge 1 hour rant about it, but I won't. It comes down to a ton of things. Where do I begin? Yeah, untapped immigration. Some immigration, I would say, okay, a little bit, but no massive amounts. I can go in some areas of Birmingham where I would walk for 30 minutes and I would see no one but Muslims. It's become very fragmented as a country. There's no group identity anymore. There's no pride in the country. So people just kind of dowsy around going, oh, I'm just an individual. But no, individualism doesn't work most of the time. Group identity really does work well. And of course, you can go extreme on both sides, but I pick the in between. And England's got extreme on the individual side, which I just don't like. England could have been a great nation like it usually was with the empire. It ruled most of the world, including India, and they used to own the US at some point, but then it just kind of failed and fell apart. It could be great, but that's basically my point. It's following what California's done with trying to attempt universal healthcare. It's failed miserably. Everyone laughs at the NHS. Taxes have gone up considerably, like in California. No one likes it here. The rates of depression in the US and the UK have gone up massively with the trends I've described and the policies that have been adopted. Whilst all these poor countries are apparently just miserable, no, they're very happy. You see the poorest countries are actually extremely happy, and that's why you got Poland as well being the best of both worlds with minimal immigration but strong family values and a strong religion. I don't care if it's Christianity, Islam, Judaism to some degree, they're happy at the end of the day. And that's what Poland is. I think.
And one quick thing about Poland, by the way, it's one of my favorite countries too. One quick thing about Poland: they recently brought in a lot of Ukrainian refugees in there. But you know what? The refugees, they're absolutely dandy there. They integrate well. So anyway. But anyway, Stardust, I would love for you.
No, exactly. I mean, there's been loads of.
Okay, fine. You can pick. There are some certain things, but I'm talking broad strokes here. Broad strokes, there hasn't really been as much of a cultural clash. Culture-wise, there's not that much of a huge difference between the Ukrainians and the Polish.
I can understand because they're neighbors, but at the same time, when you bring people across half the world that haven't heard of most of their values, which they haven't, and then try and integrate them, disaster.
I think I could integrate very well into China. I think I could do it.
But not the Polish and Ukrainians. Again, Polish and Ukrainians, those are very close cultures. I mean, hell, certain parts of Ukraine were parts of Poland and vice versa for a long time. Yeah. So that's just like,
they were forced together. They were forced together, but then
I feel bad for insulting the UK now that I realize that Lord Miles doesn't like the UK. I was a little too hard on the UK. Look, America is a country much like the UK, very, very much founded on democracy, on freedom, maybe not the same levels. But in America, you can practice any religion that you want and nobody can stop you. You as long as you are a valuer of freedom and of democracy and individuality, you are an American and that is your group identity. It doesn't matter where you come from. America has blended the best of all cultures and exported them to every country in the world. America exports music and culture and movies more than any other country in the entire world does because literally we are the best. We are the best mix of everything. Politics in America, when something happens, it shakes the entire world. We have the best military in the world. We are in 60 treaties with different countries to provide allyship to those countries. And the UK isn't that bad. The UK has a rich history of
imperialism.
Well, I mean, they have imperialism, but
colonialism,
immigration. Look, the UK. look, he spoke uninterrupted. Can I speak uninterrupted?
Yes, go on.
Okay. All right. So the UK is it has its struggles, but they've successfully removed racism as a problem. It's so welcoming that it has the highest rates of KF. I think it's KF immigration anywhere in Europe around 18%. The NHS in the UK, while maybe is not up to par all the time, has saved millions of lives, and it's a country where basically everyone, regardless of background, has access to healthcare, university education, and basic services. The UK is beautiful for that. And you know what? America maybe can learn something from that. But America is still a country of freedom where you can practice whatever religion you want. You can say whatever you want. Nobody can change what you say in your head or what you say out loud.
Not yet. I feel like there's going to be some canings.
I mean, you kind of can.
God damn it.
We export so much of our culture, man. People want to be us, okay?
Yeah, they want to be the face of America, but they don't want to be Californian. They want to be the good aspects, but you know, I like America. I like the American people.
I just don't. You're jealous of California, and you're jealous of the UK because you didn't immigrate into the UK.
All you can say is
are jealous of West
California.
You think that there is a problem with immigrants integrating into the UK? You're the one who's not integrating. You're the one who's not integrating. It's not their problem. It's you. You're having an issue with yourself.
No, it's their problem. They're guests in my place. They should integrate to my culture.
In your place.
Yeah, my country. I was born here. I grew up here.
Everybody else's problem except for you.
Well, here's what we should do. Hold on. Here's what we should do. Everybody, please, everybody, hold on. Here's what we should do. Stardust, please send me the article. I would want to have a future stream where we bring this woman on with Lord Miles and with yourself and have her explain what exactly went on there. That I think would be interesting. Because otherwise we don't know. Like we have to get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. But I wanted to bring this to tie all of this together. I think that at a certain point we did start to play certain characters, and I really want us to just be like steelman as much as possible what the other person says, which I think we were doing in the beginning when it came to talking about immigration. So when we were talking about like Britain and California, let's remember what we talked about earlier on about the British Empire, the Raj, and India. How we did point out that there were certain things that were going in a bad direction in India that the British Empire did end up reversing. Like, for example, the burning of the widows, the pollution of the Ganges River, things of that nature. Which is why I think that it is important to point out that there are things that can be improved in cultures. I don't think that's a bad thing to say. I guess the question is, do we know if that good of a job is being done in places like England today and California in order to do that? Because at the end of the day, we all want people to thrive. We all want people to be happy. We don't want the ship to fall apart. So if we see the British Empire doing these positive things for India, can we possibly see there being a negative effect of these things not being done when you have people who would come from areas, who are in the third world, coming into places like India, and then saying, "Well, we're not really gonna criticize their culture. We're not gonna do anything, and it's just naturally going to be a nice, beautiful, multicultural environment." Because that, at least according to what I got from this whole conversation, goes in contrast with something that I think all four of us, I don't know about Mass Bastard, but all three of us at least agreed on when it came to good things that the British Empire ended up doing for India. So I know I said a mouthful here, but maybe we can come together here as far as there do need to be certain improvements. Since you were, at least from what I got, kind of on the same page with Miles and myself when we were talking about these kind of improvements, you could kind of see Miles's arguments about California, about England, where he doesn't see these things being as applied. And I brought in certain things to kind of show that being the case. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't exceptions to that rule, but overall, I think we could emphasize this kind of more culturally related education more, and as well as base immigration more on these cultural standards. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I know.
Look, I don't think I've ever gone against the fact that we should have standards, like modern day standards for certain things, despite whatever culture somebody's coming from, right? And I've never been against assimilation, right? But I think that immigrants in America, like America's done an excellent job of assimilating people within our, within our country. We don't have the very fact that people are spread amongst each other and kind of forced to socialize with each other forces a lot of this assimilation. The fact that, there is this process of even becoming a citizen, learning all this history about America that even the average citizen who's born here doesn't even know, right? Is also a huge thing that helps people kind of assimilate into this country. I don't know how many people I've talked to in the United States who were born and raised in the United States and still don't know how the government works or how the government is structured. It's ridiculous to me. So I don't think that this is I don't think being an immigrant is a barrier to being an American. I think if you are an immigrant and you choose to assimilate to America, and I think a lot of people do, because they come to America because they want to prosper. This is the place where if you work hard enough, you can prosper. And I think a lot of people you'll find are willing to do what they can to assimilate into American culture. And they're proud of being American as soon as they become American. They're proud of being American before they get to be American, So I think that immigration can really be a strength for us, and it has been shown to be a strength for us. But if you're asking me whether I think that there are some cultural practices that are less good than others, obviously, very obviously. Right?
I don't even know if this qualifies as a cultural practice. I would say whatever it is in your community that would make sure that, for example, your kids are not going to hang around with some drug dealing kids in the neighborhood. Like, you make sure that your kids stay away from those kids. That is like a very basic parental thing, make sure that the kids...
Having the resources to do that, though, is also a huge part of it, right?
Yeah, well, that also goes together with the idea of having a cohesive family structure, making sure that there's, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa.
Are very much about the down. Still, immigrants coming into America value the family structure. It's immigrants who come into America who still have the family structure and who still value family values, right? These are people who very much care about the traditional family and care about caring for their families. So I don't see.
No, that is an important factor.
Some of the hardest conservative
Well, here I can give you an example here, and I think this is a very clear-cut example. Number one, let's say you're looking at Texas, and you're seeing a lot of entrepreneurs in Texas who originally came here from Mexico, who are now like third generation, fourth generation. People who end up voting Republican, end up voting for the wall. They don't want people to cross illegally. They consider themselves, which they are, to be like full-fledged Americans. Yet they came from Mexico originally. So these are people who I think have embraced the American dream, so to speak. And then let's compare those to people, let's say some immigrants maybe from El Salvador who came into California, whose kids end up in MS-13. And yeah, those kids, they have a family. They have grandmas, grandpas, yet there is something going on in that structure for whichever reason where these kids end up going into and joining the gangs. So whatever is the root cause of that issue has to be addressed. And that's kind of what I'm breaking down here.
I can agree with you on that. And I think a lot of that has to do with having enough resources within that community. What's the economic situation of that family when they come over as well, right? Because a lot of the time these children who are preyed upon by gangs are people who, these are children who don't have like a strong parental person at home, right?
Like single mothers.
Get them.
Things like that.
I feel like people worship the GDP too much. It's more to religion, values, and people. You can be in a very poor nation and still not commit murder and rape. It's socioeconomic values don't play too much into it.
Wait, I don't think By the way, sorry, I don't think Stardust disagrees with you there, Miles. I think you guys are on the same page. Stardust did mention single motherhood being a big factor for a lot of trouble. So I think you guys agree there.
Yeah, I mean, empirically, you can look at family structure and two parent households generally, empirically, across the board, produce better outcomes for the children raised in those households. But what can we do for the households that don't have two parents in them?
I want to give you guys a question. What do you think is the poorest neighborhood, poorest village in the United States?
Something. Where is Detroit in America? Let's see.
I don't know. I don't know what the poorest village is in the United States.
I just hope it's not mine, the one I'm in right now currently. Please don't say mine, Lev.
Okay, so the poorest place in the United States is not a dusty Texas border town, a hollow in Appalachia, a remote Indian reservation, or a blighted urban neighborhood. It has no slums or homeless people. No one who lives there is shabbily dressed or has to go hungry. Crime is virtually non-existent. So this place that I'm talking about is named Kiryas Joel in New York, and it is a Hasidic Jewish town.
Oh, no. What's going on there?
This
also,
is why I think
a hollow, not a holler. It's an Appalachian holler.
Holler. There we go. So the reason why I'm saying this is there is a specific culture there, which makes sure that kids in the first place don't go down that route.
So it's a homogeneous society with a strong religious background. Excellent.
Culturally,
I can get behind.
Culturally homogeneous. Same thing as in Israel. In Israel, you can be, and I mentioned this in the previous stream, you could be a Jewish person who's Arabian, a Jewish person who's Ashkenazi.
They don't let in a lot of Ethiopian Jews.
Yes, there are Ethiopian Jews who are settling into Israel as well. But the idea is that if you are Jewish and if you want to be a part of that culture...
I don't know, not always. Israel doesn't let in lots of Ethiopian Jews and African Jews very often. And also they use racial profiling at their airports pretty much. So they're ultra-nationalistic in some ways and a religious ethno-state.
I don't know if it's racial profiling as much as cultural profiling. Because again, as far as the, not even the Arabian Jews, but if we're talking about the... not the Ashkenazi Jews, the Sephardic Jews. A lot of Sephardic Jews, if you look at them, they look very Middle Eastern because they have interbred back, after 1492 with a lot of people who were living in Iraq, a lot of these areas, after they got banned from Spain. So I don't think that what the people in the airport there in Israel are looking at are racial things as much as cultural things, which I think can be detected. Again, like Miles, you were in Afghanistan, you would be able to notice when people are of a different culture, how they talk, how they walk, how they interact with the environment. And if you're somebody who is trained in that...
Oh, no, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, there we go. So you would all that I'm saying is that I don't think
I agree with the practice because it keeps the country safe. But if you're in that country, you're given a number for 1 to 5. I can't remember which way around it is, but let's say 1 is you're pretty much an Israeli old lady citizen returning home for a nice holiday in Benidorm, and then 5 is you're basically from a Muslim nation, you're a single male traveling alone, early 20s. They unapologetically use racial profiling at Ben Gurion airports, and people talk out against it, but it's actually the safest airport in the entire world, in one of the most hostile nations.
But what you said right now is not racial profiling.
I'm actually fully against it.
No, but what you said right now is not racial.
You're basing someone based on a race.
No, you're not basing it on the race. You're basing it on the culture. You're basing it on religion. That's very different things.
Immigrants in the United States are less likely to commit crimes than Native-born Americans.
But it's not just the country of immigration. If you are somebody who is a Jew who is traveling from a Middle Eastern country, if you like many immigrations were done back when Israel was first starting, that's different than when you are a Muslim who is traveling from a Muslim country to Israel. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page about this. That is not.
It brings into account. No, it brings into account everything. No, it brings into account every single demographic. Basically, it does use racial profiling at Ben Gurion Airport. It's a fact. If you Google racial profiling Ben Gurion Airport, it will come up. There's several videos on it. It's been in the news, but they unapologetically judge people that way, and it works. And I don't blame them because Israel has obviously been under attack. I can see where it's coming from.
Well, I'm going to take a look at this, what you're saying here about the racial profiling. The only thing that I would say is that within Israel itself, if we're talking about the rights that are extended to people who are not just Arabs who are Muslims, but if we are talking about in general, like Jews who are of Arabian origin or of, Druze or whatever, there is no discrimination, at least when it comes to the system there. From what I found. If you could find me contradictory things to that, I would love to take a look at it. But that is what I know right now about that.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting thing, but I can find some stuff. But
Also, one last thing. Do you know what the second language is in Israel, like officially in the parliament?
Chinese.
Close. It's Arabic.
Oh, Arabic.
Arabic, exactly.
Well, it's surrounded by Arab countries.
No, but again, the reason why I'm saying this is that Israel is not a ethno state. It is kind of like a religio state, which is also weird because you could theoretically skirt that law. Like, you could pretend to be Jewish. You just have to do it like really well in the beginning, like do the whole song and dance with your local rabbi, and then you could get in there. But what I think Israel is preserving, which I think is the most important thing, is the culture itself. Because I consider places like Israel to be high-level civilizations that are around a lot of civilizations that are not yet at that same level. And to me, that's what I care about the most. That's what I care about extending outwards into the world. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Because number one, that does not discriminate based on any race, any DNA things. It is purely, what are you offering to the world? What are your values? How do you treat other people around you? How do you treat your children, your family? That's all. So it's like a Martin Luther King approach, right? Judge people according to their character, not the color of their skin. Right, Stardust?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There we go. So
I agree with that, but I don't think immigration should be beneficial to most groups. I think if you want to help people, you send money to their country and create social ties and economic ties. Encouraging brain drain in a country is not good for anyone. Mexico could be a very rich country right now if they basically didn't have a mass exodus of their rich people and of their best, really, that have come to the US.
So what
I think that would solve
happens,
issues for both places.
So what actually happens is it's not really brain drain, right? Like, what happens is you get these really qualified people who come to America and they get jobs and they make money, and because they still have families in those other countries, they'll send some money back, right? And then what happens as a result of that, let me finish. As a result of that, what happens is they end up, not only are they improving the lives for themselves, they're improving and contributing to the economy within the United States, they're also improving and contributing to the lives of the people who are still back in their home country.
Yeah,
so it's actually pretty cool.
No, that doesn't work like that. So I'll address the first thing. You said that's not brain drain, but the definition of brain drain is the immigration of highly trained or qualified people from a particular country. So by definition, that is brain drain. You're just wrong with that. And the second thing is you're basically sending a small amount of money that's not guaranteed or regular based on no economic backing towards the other country, which it can't be relied on. It's just one of those things. It's like when World War II happened, they had to rebuild Europe. They didn't say everyone from Europe come to America. They didn't. No, they sent money over there and created economic, social, and governmental ties and rebuilt all the buildings and helped with putting everything back together. And then Europe became a little bit better, and now it's great again to some degree. Same with Poland as well. And that's why Poland's doing so well at the moment. It's not inviting everyone in at random. It's been very protective of its nation and taking small steps to basically secure its group identity and national culture.
Any final thoughts there, Stardust? I think we're going to be concluding soon.
Yeah, I have to get going soon, but I appreciated this talk. Despite it being very contentious. This is just my style. I'm sorry.
No, it's a lot of fun.
Apology not accepted.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Didn't you just say a while back that Poland wasn't doing well? I'm pretty sure you said Poland wasn't doing well.
No, I think Miles, you were talking about certain instances with Ukrainian refugees, but again, like, I don't know what the numbers are, if any problems going on there. I don't think they're as.
Oh yeah, I'm saying Ukraine's not doing well. Yeah, I'm saying Poland's not doing well with immigration, but Poland overall is doing very well. That's why I'm going back in a week for a date. It's gonna be great. Poland's doing very well because it's very anti-immigration. For people that are far away, that don't align with its values and culture, and it's doing very well economically. When I walk around Poland, I feel safe. There's no litter. There's a strong social tie between people. It's a great nation.
What are their arcades like?
Mask has one thing on his mind.
I think, yeah, they actually have some retro. Yeah, because they actually do have retro arcades in certain areas. I believe the Soviets,
not by
they actually did
skin, but the content of its arcades.
Yeah, so listen, Stardust. I always I had a lot of fun with you here, and I would love for you to come back. I love these contentious back and forth streams. I think they're a lot of fun, and I think you're really good at it.
Very feisty.
I appreciate that. I apologize again for making it spicy. It's just
no, don't apologize for the spice. Let the spice flow, right?
Spice
right, guys?
Flow. He who controls the spice controls the universe.
No hard feelings, Miles. No hard feelings, Miles. It's okay.
It's okay. I understand that you lost, but it's completely fine.
When you eventually become
move to California,
the United States,
move to California.
You'll be like the second.
I think it's gonna be just fine.
So,
I think
RoboCop is pretty good. RoboCop
is.
Some argue it's even better.
Wow, what a gentleman!
I think if you grow the balls to come to Afghanistan and stop talking and whining about certain things without taking any action, it'll be great. But until then, until
you can just
decide
benefit
actually
from being a dude, right? Like in any part of the world.
Here we go again.